What was the point where you decided like you want to do this professionally? Was there ever like, okay, I want to go to art school, or I want to like I want to make comic books, or I want to draw forever? Like I just love this.
I think my mother was very. I remember my father. He was a professor of chemistry at Purdue. That's when we moved to the States. He was a professor of chemistry at Purdue, taught chemistry there. And my favorite team was the Steelers at the time. Terry Bradshaw, Franco Harris, Lynn Swann. So he did a drawing of Terry Bradshaw from a picture. That was like pretty decent. But this guy was a professor of chemistry, right? Yeah. And then my mother, for the first Halloween, they didn't really understand the tradition of Halloween, but so like the last minute, she took a bed sheet and drew Spider-Man on the front in like markers. She got like a picture of this. I think it's the John Romita Jr. Spider-Man running like this, and she drew it on the front, and I wore that as a costume to school. And so I think both of my parents had particular ability or skill set, but it was never really fully encouraged. They also grew up in a different time era. They grew up. They were born at the tail end of World War II. They grew up partially during the Civil War in China, and the families had to immigrate to Taiwan. So it's a completely different lifestyle and circumstances. So, but when we got to the States, my mother saw that I liked to draw too, and she got me a tutor. I think I was maybe like 7 or 8, probably 8.
Wow, an art tutor.
An art tutor that I would go once a month or every few weeks, and so I would draw like still life stuff. She would tell me to set up like an apple or a cup and a shoe, and I would draw that. We went to the zoo and drew animals at the zoo. Just various things. Stuff aside from things that I like to draw myself, but really teaching me at an early age kind of the fundamentals of art.
Yeah.
I'd sit there and draw my hand, or I look at the mirror. And if I was trying to draw a figure from my head and I couldn't get it, I'd look at the mirror and try to act out the pose, and then draw, and then pose, and then draw again.
That's so cool.
Like nowadays, these young artists that I meet, I'm like, there's no excuse now. You got a phone. Just pull out your phone.
And then you can have any image you want.
Yeah, exactly. And if you can't find it, take a picture of yourself, and then or your friend, and you'll get it. And there's apps now too that you can pose heads, figures, hands.
Wow.
And get the correct lighting and shading. So there's no excuse not to put in that work.
Did you ever go into Did you ever go to school professionally?
I went to in high school. I grew up in Miami. Mm-hmm. So in Miami, I went to an art high school called New World School of the Arts, and it was based off of LaGuardia from New York City. New York City, LaGuardia is more famous for that TV show Fame, right? So it's an art high school. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a high school, but you have to audition to get in. And it's a very limited enrollment. I think in New World, there was 425 students altogether from 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. And you can either major in visual arts, music, dance, or theater. But you had to audition to get in. Yeah. Once you auditioned and got in, everything was free.
Wow.
And it was like a kind of like a pilot program for Dade County. Now they have all these magnet schools everywhere. They have magnet schools for science, math.
Yeah.
I've
never heard of that at
they have like two
high school
art
level.
they have like two high school art high schools. One's they call, I think, more of a design school now, and then New World is more of the fine art school. And the other thing too is like going to New World, it was great because for the high school experience, you're around all the other students were creatives. Mm-hmm. They were doing crazy stuff. It was the first couple of years. It was brand new school. We didn't even really have a actual building. We were sharing a college campus. So we got into a lot of trouble.
Especially high school kids.
Yeah. But it gave us like freedom to really kind of express ourselves. And from New World, I entered my senior year. I entered a contest for Pratt Institute. It was a national talent search. And they had either art or architecture, and I entered both. Architecture, you had a design contest where you had to submit an initial design for a a gym or library, I think,
Okay.
or a utility center, all-purpose complex, and then that once that's the first stage submission, then they weed out and have like a second stage. If you pass the first stage, second stage is you can do whatever you want. So I got the first one, I did like a gym, and then the second one there was like whatever you want, so I did like a arts center, and then I ended up winning first place.
Oh, wow.
And so that was like a full scholarship to Pratt.
Wow, that's still amazing. That's congratulations.
Yeah,
That's,
so thanks. It was I mean, I can remember I was working at the airport because the airport was the latest post office.
mhm.
It closed at, I think, 11 o'clock or something like that was the last shipment out.
Oh, wow.
So I was in the post office lobby finishing coloring and rendering this, big piece. And telling myself I will never wait till the last minute to do something
anything.
again. And here I am, 30-something years later, and it's still the same.
I feel like it's human nature. We have this amazing ability to say, like, if you give someone a 10-page paper to write, they're going to wait to the last minute to write it because it's, you need that push in order to get things done. You need that pressure on you to say, okay, this needs to get accomplished. And I think it's just human nature.
Sometimes, like, great stuff can take a long time to make.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And then sometimes also great stuff just happens in
force
a
of will.
span of, a relatively short amount of time.
Absolutely.
Like some of the best songs, I was listening to Howard Stern a lot, and he interviews a lot of these musicians and songwriters, and they're like, some of the best songs that they've ever written are like a couple minutes and boom,
Exactly.
it's done. Right? Or at least the genesis, the core essence of it.
I've heard Paul McCartney come up with songs that have been in dreams, and he just, and he thought about it, and that was the song.
And he's still writing songs now. He just had an album come out last week or so.
Yeah, it's crazy. You just never know, like, what's gonna come.